things are going pretty well here. We've actually got two complete systems back on the air here that have been in kind of dire need of some work. So they're now back fully functional, although I was beginning to doubt that earlier this evening. I couldn't get any audio, but I had a switch in the wrong position. Figures. Anyway, let's see if there's anybody else who'd like to join us. We got about a little over 15 minutes to go. I know Bob's here somewhere. I heard him on earlier. Bob is the host tonight, AK6R, but let's see if there's anybody else here who'd like to join us for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable. Please come now. This is W6DQ.
Relay.
DLA additional. Yeah, you're 5-9 for 20 down here.
Yeah, relay, Dennis.
Yeah, go ahead with the relay. I'm not hearing somebody. Go ahead.
Yes, W7MS. Max may have given up, but initially, and I apologize if Max is still listening, I forgot to try to give you a heads up, but I would assume he still has amplifier problems because he was really light into Reno, but probably going over the top of your head a few minutes ago. W7MS.
Well, let's see if he is there. Yeah, I never heard him at all. I mean, we got a low noise level here tonight, and I didn't hear a thing. So, KJ6810, Max, are you there with no amplifier? Go ahead.
Nothing heard here.
Yeah, likewise, nothing on KFS either. So, no, I missed him. That's too bad. If he was there, I totally missed him. Thanks, Mike. Oh, well, next time. Maybe he'll come back, hopefully. So, with nobody else, let's go back up to the top of the list, and we'll make another round through here. We got time to do that. Kevin, JKN, WA6JKN, Kevin over to Ron, H2RP, to Mike, W7MS, and Reno, and then Glenn, WB6RLC, and Glenn send it back to me. So take it away again, Kevin, W6JKN, W6DQ.
Okay, let's see here. I got a monitor turned on. I turn that down. Okay, this WA6JKM. Boy, that was I think that was record time in getting the KW Sugar 1 from 40 meters down to 75 meters. So I'm here, and all is well. So let's keep it going. K2RP, WA6JKN.
I guess Ron stepped away, so go ahead, Mike, W7MS, W60Q.
Okay, well, thank you, Dennis and Kevin. W7MS here in Reno, and it's still 33 degrees. So it's another exciting Tuesday, but I haven't been here for several weeks. Maybe it's been more than several, but nice to be here tonight, even with a relatively low turnout. With no explanation, because propagation is good and adjacent frequency activity is null, so I can't complain. Congratulations, Dennis, on knocking some bench time out. I'm on a transceiver that I'll describe later, but was received as a mechanic special. I prefer that rather than tech special. I think mechanic special is more of an analogy. Yeah, you're picking up somebody's old dilapidated jalopy, which wasn't quite the case in this radio, but it's I think it's more of a good moniker for a refurbed radio. But over to Glenn. And it's quite warm, but he's wearing his buddy shoes and trying to stay warm. WB6RLC, W7MS.
All right. Excuse me, Mike. W7MS. WB6RLC, and the illustrious group. Well, let's see. Tonight I'm on the Swan 500, no suffix. And, yeah, it's, for me, it's a little chilly, you know. It gets below 70 degrees, and I'm in trouble. But, yeah, I've got a little fan on top of the 500, and I have it blowing all the exhaust heat right toward me, and a heater down toward my feet, and, but, yeah, this morning when I went off to the work at the Air Museum, it was about 35 or something like that when I left home. So, yeah, it's pretty chilly hanging out in those hangars and things like that. So didn't get much above 60 today. So anyway, but it was sunny and nice, and so life is good. Okay, Dennis, back to you. W6DQ, WB6RLC.
I'll get it. The W6DQ here. Thanks, Glenn. Oh, yeah. Well, the high here today was 46, so it was bloody cold. There you go. Oh, man. Anyway, let me break and see if there's anybody else who'd like to join us for the Vintage Sideband Roundtable. Please come now. Okay, I got WA9 JIB, Bob, and I got Skip, K6LGL Mobile. Hopefully he'll be home soon, but good copy, Skip, even on the mobile running low power. Let's see if there's anybody else. Okay, let's continue on through the list. We still got some time. First up, Vaughn, K6ZTA, and then Phil, N6WHK, JNY6L, and Frank, K6FEW, and then back to me, W60Q. So take it away, Vaughn, K6ZTA, and the early list for the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable, W60Q. Yeah, W6DQ, K6ZTA. Okay, Dennis. Yeah, well, I just want to pass along a question to Jay. Jay, are you familiar, are you aware that the four states QRP outfit is, they've suspended their sales of the 75-meter transceiver, and it's been that way for a while. I suspect Christmas was, maybe that was the reason, and they just haven't resupplied. But have you heard anything? Just curious. So when it's your turn, then maybe you can respond to that. So, yeah, I'd like to build that 75-meter, meaning the 75-meter AM rig. It's a transistor rig that, it's a little, it almost fits in a tuna can kind of a thing. It's pretty small. So I want to try my luck at trying to solder that or, put it together. With my trimmer, I've got an essential trimmer that does prevent me from doing some real fine work. So I've got to, hopefully I'll be able to do it without getting solder blobs everywhere. Anyway, so okay, back over to you. N6WHK, K6ZTA.
K6ZTA and 6WHK. But we've had some interesting weather the last couple nights. It's been 32 degrees here in San Diego at my QTH. It's 45 right now, so it looks like it's going to cool off back down to that temperature. My little Chihuahua puppy, he wanted in bed last night with us. So I took an old blanket I had and threw it on the floor and put her in it and wrapped her up. She slept there all night pretty good. No problem. Anyway, looking forward to the net. And it should be an interesting one. Kind of a short group. With that, over to our friend up in the high desert, NY6L. And he can answer the question. And 6WHK.
Okay, NY6L here, in a cold high desert here. Okay, Ron, to answer your question, I have not looked at the website lately. I'll have to take a look and see if that is the case. they're supposedly got an updated kit that already came out, and they're supposed to get some more parts. But I'll have to take a look, so I don't know anything further. So, all right, yeah, I just came home about less than an hour in traffic. I had lunch with Bob, AK6R. I got some more work loaded up for me to do, and picked up a great L4B amplifier for near future restoration. And I picked up an isotope event such as ISO. So, alright, moving right along. Over to Frank, G6FEW, NY6L area.
Thanks, Jay. K6FEW here. Everybody's coming in here great tonight. I'm impressed. I picked up Skip down there. I gather he's mobile, LGL. So up here in the Bay Area, everybody's just doing fine tonight.
Oh well. Okay, yeah, it comes back to me, Frank. So I'm going to send it over to. Frank, I was going to comment on your signal. You're actually pretty wide. I think you said you're running a 28 tonight. I think that's what I caught. Either 28 or 100 feet. I don't recall. No, I think Todd was on the 100 feet. You may have been running a 28, but yeah, it's pretty ugly on the spectrum display. So you might want to check that out. Take a look on KFS. You can see what it looks like. Anyway, I'm going to send it over to Lisa, KF6QNG. Lisa can give it to Matthew, N4DLA. Matthew, give it to Bob, WA9JIB. And Bob, give it to Skip, K6LGO, who's probably still mobile. And then Skip, it comes back to me. So take it away, Lisa, KF6QNG in the group, W6DQ.
Okay, thank you. Well, not a whole lot to really add right now, so just waiting to get to the round table. Hear what the answers to the question are. Answers to the question is, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, doing well. Working like crazy still, but, well, keeps me off the streets. Keeps the heat going and all that kind of stuff. Food on the table, so that's a good thing. So from there, it goes to Matthew. So, N4DLA from KF6QNG.
Okay, thank you, Lisa, KF6QNG. And the release from Matthew, N4DLA. Yeah, great signals tonight from everybody. Last thing in, right out of the shack when K6LGO's mobile, so I've tried to pick him up after Bob comes on. So we're to my fellow real fan and Allied Knight Aficionado Bob, WA9JIB from N4DLA. Okay, Matthew, N4DLA in the group, WA9JIB. Bob over here in La Cañada. I don't know what the temperature was today, but it was a beautiful day, nice day, and we're working. Except but I didn't walk a while and raked my nails off the front yard. And there were plenty of them from the recent windstorms over the whole mill. So, but hey, I like the weather like this. This is wonderful. And, I much prefer this to the rest of the rest here in Southern California. So, but hey, I grew up in Chicago, so I'm expecting but I expect it to be cold January. Doesn't bother me. Anyway, yeah, let's see, I don't know what the topic is
Skip, are you there? K6LGL, W6DQ. He must be in transit to the home station. Okay, Bob, are you back? AK6R, W6DQ.
Yeah, I'm back, and I'm just trying to figure out why my push-to-talk isn't quite working yet, so give me a couple minutes, and I'll be able to take the list. Thanks, Dennis.
You got it, and I think I'm back on the right frequency again, 3895, looking at my display here. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Very good. Well, we'll keep the frequency warm here for a couple of minutes while you figure out what's going on with your PTT. In the meantime, let me see if there's anybody else who'd like to join us. This is W6DQ taking earlies for the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable.
W6YEC checking in, Dennis.
Okay, George, I got you, W6YEC. There was another station in there. Who was that?
Gary, WA7BIP.
Got you. Okay, Gary. WA7BIP. Good signal up here. You still got that growl on your audio. That's kind of weird. Anyway, just thought you should know that. It's like it was before, but you're much louder tonight than you were last time. Let me see if there's anybody else. W6DQ.
Kilo Whiskey 1, November Golf.
Okay, so I've got you there, Ken. You're on the list, and I heard K6LGL there very weak in the background that he's arrived. So we'll have to keep him on the list here. He must be moving inside. Anybody else who'd like to join us?
I'm back, Dennis.
Okay, Bob, I'll go ahead and give you the list then, if you're ready to copy.
I'm ready to copy.
All right. Top of the list, WA6JKN, Kevin. Let's see, where's my... Let's try that so I can let go of the button. There we go. So after Kevin, we've got K2RP, Ron. K2RP. Then W7MS, Mike. W7MS. Followed by WB6RLC, Glenn. After Glenn, we've got K6ZTA, Vaughn. K6ZTA. And then Phil, N6WHK. N6WHK. After Phil is NY6LJ. That guy you know up in the high desert, NY6L, and after J is Frank, K6FEW, that's Kilo 6 Frank Echo Whiskey. After Frank is KF6QNG, my other operator here, Lisa. And why don't you put me in with Lisa there? You can put me after Lisa, is fine. W6DQ. And next is N4DLA. N4DLA, that's Matthew up north. We got WA9JIB, Bob. WA9JIB, Bob. And then next was Skip, K6LGL, who was mobile, but he's now home. He just announced that he'd arrived home. So K6LGL, Skip. Followed by W6YEC, George. W6YEC. And then Gary, Whiskey Alpha 7, Bravo, India Papa, WA7BIP, that's Gary. And at the end of the list here, we got Ken, Kilo Whiskey 1, November Golf, KW1NG, Ken. So how do we do there? Did we catch it all? Any fills?
Yeah, what's K6FEW's name?
K6FEW is Frank.
Frank. All right. Frank. All right, very good. I got you right after Lisa, right, Dennis?
Yeah, that works. That's fine.
Okay, very good. Well, let's take one more call. Anybody else want to get on the list for the vintage single sideband net? Please come now. Okay, I got 702 here, and you can zero beat me at 3.895, and we'll get this on the air here. So I'm going to read the short preamble tonight. Welcome everybody to the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable. This is Bob, AK6R in Fallbrook, right about 16 miles inland from the Oceanside Yacht Club or Oceanside Harbor. And I'm in California, of course. I'm the host for this evening's roundtable tonight. I am using lots of equipment. We did a large estate this weekend, so lots of different types of equipment here. But tonight I'm running an ACOM amp and about 500 watts of power, so that's all I can say right now. And we meet each Tuesday evening at or near 3.895, and that's what I'm on right now. All of us should be using equipment that was manufactured on or before 1981 or home-built equipment with equivalent technology. First-timers may, however, use modern equipment and ask around about how to get vintage equipment. I'll be glad to help you out with that today. We have a question of the evening, which I'll announce in just a minute. Do we have any other announcements at this time? Please come now. Okay, nothing heard. So let's see. I had a few things here. I'll do the question of the evening, but we did an estate this weekend for N6ZI, and quite a few of the pieces of equipment were vintage equipment. If you're interested in any of these, please drop me an email at ak6r@yahoo.com. I'll just name off a few of them. One is an HRO 60 and all the coils. Another is an HT32 Helicrafter's transmitter. I also have a GSB Constant GSB 100 transceiver, or rather a transmitter, and the matching GSB 101 linear amplifier. And also a very interesting radio, which I have never seen before, and I'm dying to turn it on, and that's a PATCOM, PATCOMM 16,000, made in the early 2000s, very early solid-state radio, and no longer made, but interesting looking radio, kind of like an early Flex. I have a Drake T4X and a whole 10-tech station here too, including the linear amplifier and the Argosy and the 10-tech 544 and a variety of other things. So if you're interested in any of those, let me know, and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. They're not available. They are available for reasonable prices, and whatever is not sold or traded will be available at the swap meet in Southern California here on the third Saturday of the month in Claremont. Okay, let's go over the question of the evening. And I did send that out about an hour and a half ago, so sorry you missed it, Bob. But I'll give it to you. One of the topics that we all are familiar with, of course, is antennas. So tonight I thought we'd talk a little bit about antennas. And so I put up a hypothetical question, and the question is if you only had one antenna to choose from that suits all of your communication needs on HF, that is, which one would it be, and why would you choose that particular antenna? Some of the considerations may be space available to put one up. Maybe the bands that are covered, and maybe the feed point location. Is it in the middle, the end, depending upon how your situation is. And maybe, do I require an antenna tuner? Some people don't like to use them. And maybe it also might be the radiation pattern. Anyway, I'm sure there's a criteria that you use in selecting your antenna or keeping the antenna that you've had for years and years. I'd like just to have you share that, and maybe it'll give some of the newcomers or some of the other people on the net an idea of something to choose other than what they have now. So here's hoping we can get a lively discussion on that topic. So I'm going to go down the list four at a time, and then you can turn it back to me after that. So the first four are Kevin, WA9JKN. Turn it over to Ron, K2RP. And Ron, thanks for the offer of the Palomar noise bridge. And then Ron, turn it over to Mike, W7MS, who I understand's got a great signal tonight. And then over to Glenn, WB6RLC, out in the nice warm desert. Hi. And then back to me, Glenn. WA9JKN to take it from AK6R.
Yep. Okay, I have to turn
turn down the monitor there from the spectrum scope. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm W9JKN. Yeah. I don't know. I've been to Chicago, but I don't think I got my license there. WA6 Juliet Kilowatt November. Thank you very much. Kevin and Gilroy, I'm on the Collins KW Sugar 1 and the 75A4. I do have KFS fired up just in case, and I have my spectrum scope fired up too. All right, question of the evening. I think it's a really good one. It made me think about a few things of what I considered. The first thing I learned the hard way is it has to look good. This neighborhood, I've had complaints about how the antenna looked. So if you want to be good neighbors, you got to at least listen to what they have to say. The other thing is the XYL. The one thing she told me not that many years ago, but she said, isn't there a better antenna you can put up other than all that wire? And I did. I thought about it. I had so much wire hanging around with balance and everything else. I figured that there's a better way, so I got rid of all that stuff. And no tuner. I don't like tuners. Even the automatic tuners doesn't really make a difference. It's I just can't. An antenna tuner or dummy load. Which one do you want to use as your antenna? Okay. Resonant. I prefer resonant versus non-resonant. I know there's advantages to non-resonant antennas for multi-band purposes with twin lead, which I have lots of, by the way. Don't use it anymore. And so I ended up, believe it or not, looking for something that had, all the bands on HF. And I found one, didn't have it all, but it had most of everything I wanted. That was the hex beam, covered 20 through 6 meters. And to my surprise, it also worked on 2 meters, and it also makes a fabulous 160-meter antenna. I discovered that by mistake. I happened to be on 160 meters, and I couldn't believe it. The noise level was down to like S3, S2, and I had S9, 20 over signals, and the spectrum scope was filled up. I said, what is going on here? And I looked, and there it was. I was on my hex beam, so I don't have no idea why that worked, but it still does even today, 5 years or so later. So that's what I ended up with, is a hex beam. It works out great for seamless operations, especially when I operate remote with the amplifier and everything. I don't have to worry about an antenna tuner. I just, set it, forget it, key, and I'm on the air. 75 and 40 meters is just an inverted V, so that's kind of nice because I have it in the back of the property. So no matter where you are, mostly in where my wife hangs out, the XYL hangs out, you can't see the antenna. So that's kind of nice. So the wire stuff that she doesn't like is gone. All right. Well, that's my input. So there you go. Let's keep it moving. K2RP. Over to you, Ron. WA6JKN.
Okay, thanks. Well, I'll be a little bit brief. First of all, Ron and Antonina, E4XBR4B. And let's see. My experience is for maybe 40 years, I used a big dipole fed with twin leads, which of course needs a tuner to work, and it worked really well. We lived out in the country and there was nobody bothering us. Once I got here, I put up the same antenna, and it worked okay, but if I used it linear with it, I'd open up garage doors and TVs or whatever. So maybe 20 years ago, I put up a G5RV, which is really superb. You do need the antenna tuner for most of them, but the automatic antenna tuners work fine. And as far as performance, I got 5 landlords off state with 100 watts from a corner of the country. And more recently, I got involved with QRP. I've worked 49 states with 5 watts with the little G5RV. Recently, I came into a vertical switch laid on the ground in my backyard for about 2 years. A few months ago, I got that put up, and that's very inconspicuous. It's a 30-foot tall man. These radios, I didn't put the 80-meter radios on, so I got 40-meter radios on, 4310, and it's also a wonderful performer, especially on 10 and 15. But if you didn't hear about the low band, that might work for some people. But for me, just plain G5RV has worked wonders. Let's see what Mike has to say. W7MS, K2RP.
Okay, well, thank you, Ron. K2RP, W7MS, Mike and Reno. Good evening to one and all on this crisp and dark winter evening here on the West Coast. And thanks, Bob, for running the show. And, of course, thanks, Dennis, taking the earlies. And I was chuckling about the Palomar Engineering Noise Bridge. I have one of the early versions here, but, Bob, it's been in my giveaway pile at the last 3 swap meets. And I was thinking really hard because nobody took it. If I actually still have it, or did I finally give up? But I'm glad one's on the way for the Palomar Museum there. So congratulations on that. This evening running something that maybe technically might be a year or two not in compliance, but then again it may be in compliance because I'm not really sure, but it's a Transworld Datron RT100/MP transceiver, which is a military configured transceiver, and of course olive drab. And of course Datron and Transworld were great at marketing green radios to the world. I don't think they did a lot of domestic sales, but they did great selling military radios to banana republics, and that's driving my Soviet GU84B home-built amplifier, but I'm only running in the low power position with the Transworld at about 20 watts. I'm probably 600-700 watts out to a coax-fed dipole cut for in and about this frequency. I think my ultimate antenna would be, it's really hard, because how are you going to cover 3.5 to 30 megahertz with a piece of wire? But it can be done, but obviously with an antenna coupler tuner configuration. But I'm just going to say with, my dream antenna would be a double extended ZEP on 160. How's that for and if it didn't cover everything else, I just force it through one of them antenna tuners. See what happens. But it's that's a big fits-all, Bob, but a fun question. And I believe it still goes to Glenn. I know Dennis is in here somewhere, but I was too busy texting and not paying attention to the radio. But I did comment that you heard rumors that I had a great signal, so hopefully it's continuing to do so. So I'm going to turn it to Glenn, and if I've got things hosed up, my apologies to whoever or Dennis. WB6RLC, W7MS.
All right, Mike, W7MS, WB6ROC. Nope, you got it just right. Glenn here, Cathedral City, next bird over from Palm Springs, where the desert meets the sand. Let's see, rig tonight's a Swan 500. No suffix, single year of manufacturer only. Mike's Assure 444 up to an off-center fed dipole at about 32 feet. So, antennas, well, actually, I think I've got the best compromise antenna. And not to blow smoke up your skirt, Bob, but Bob does sell this antenna. But I built it over 10 years ago, so I didn't buy it from Bob. but it's an off-center fed dipole, but it's an oddball kind of a combination. Instead of like a 33-66% split, it's a 20%, 80% split. And it's a 135 feet overall, 27 and change on one end and 109 feet on the other end. And it covers everything pretty well from 80 meters to 10 meters, including all the wharf bands and 15 meters and everything else. So it's got really good coverage. It all works via the antenna tuner on my Yaesu 5000D. So it covers all the bases. Plus, it was cheap and easy to build. I mean, actually I had to buy the ballon, but everything else was home brewed, and just put it up. So that's why I like it. And I've worked 250 countries with it, and et cetera, not running an amplifier, usually anywhere digital modes or PSK or RIDI or whatever, sideband, a little bit of everything. So, it seems to be working for me. So it's maybe part my location and whatever else, but it's a good antenna. I found the plans online, like I said, at least 10-something years ago. So anyway, goes back to you, Bob. AK6R, WB6RLC in the group.
WB6RLC in the group, AK6R. Well, very good, everybody. Everybody was at least 20 over, and I think Mike was about 20 to 30 over. So being up in Reno has its advantages, I guess, in the height. But excellent signals from everybody. Good comments, too. And I particularly like the XYL filter from you, Kevin. Great comment. I think that's one of the most important things, and I had forgotten to put that on my list of things to be considered, but excellent idea. And using a hex beam on 160, I'm just theoretically trying to figure out how that works, and it might be if it's using the outside of the coax braid as part of the antenna, and if it's a long piece of coax, then it would essentially be end-fed with a hat on it, which would be the hex beam itself. That's about the only way I can figure out that would nicely work, but it's certainly feasible. And G5RV, Ron, you always have a good signal, so keep up what you're doing there. It sounds just great. And a double extended ZEP on 160. Boy, you got to have some real estate to do that, Mike. And Glenn, I got to agree with you. If you look at off-center feds, and I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of a variation of that in a little while, but off-center feds are very nice, and the 80-20 also allows you to get 15 meters, whereas the 6633 cannot get 15 meters. So there's some advantages to doing it that way. And certainly it works good. The disadvantage is you have to feed it off the center, or not off the center, but off of one of the ends. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Anyway, let's get some more feedback. But before I do that, I'm going to ask if anybody else wants to get on the list, and we'll put them at the end. Anybody, come now, please.
WA6 Lima Juliet Romeo.
WA6 LGR. And the name there?
Whiskey Alpha 6 Lima Juliet Romeo. Name is Bill. Bravo India Lima Lima.
Okay, Bill, I got you. Very good. Anybody else? Again, please.
Whiskey Alpha 6 Juliet Uniform Sierra.
Okay, I got you back there, and I got WA6JUS. Very good. Anybody else? Okay, let's carry on with the next four, and that's going to be 4 here. Be Yvonne, K6ZTA, and Kevin, I'm sorry I called you a W9 JKN. I just was thinking about somebody else on the list. K6ZTA, Vaughn to take it, and
turn it over to Phil, N6WHK, and then over to my lunch date today, NY6LJ, and then J over to K6FEW, Frank, and then Frank back to me. Take it away, Zvon. K6ZTA, AK6R.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Yeah, AK6R, K6ZTA, and the Tuesday night roundtable. Oh, boy. Well, the only thing I can say is I don't have any limitations here. Well, this is a small city lot, but I've maximized my coverage with wire antennas. I only have 2 wire antennas, actually, because I've got a 40-meter beam, and then I've got a tri-bander underneath that. So I don't have the antenna problems that some people have in terms of coverage. So what I can say is the only thing that happens is my wire antennas, when they come down into the driveway, my wife wants to know what's going on so that she can get her car out of the garage. So that's the only bad part is that I found is when I have to lower the antenna or it comes down in the wind or something. So at any rate, with that, let's see. I'm using the 100V tonight, driving an SB220, and using an inverted V here on 75. It's actually an 80-meter inverted V, and it's resonant at about 3.6. It's resonant at about 3,600. So I can tune it with the tuner here to get it to work on 75. So, and the receiver is the Drake 2B, and the microphone is a 10D. All right, I will pass it on to Phil, and Phil can fill us in on what's going on with his station in the antenna world. So N6WHK, K6ZTA.
J6ZTA, thank you. November 6th, Whiskey Hotel Kilo. Well, I've got a few antennas up, a TA6, and I got a wire about 285 feet, and I load that with a Heathkit tuner, pretty near on all bands. I've had it on 12, I've had it on 10, 15, 20, and it works very well. I have it on the way it's configured. I live in the bottom of a canyon, kinda, small little canyon, and the wire goes up the side of the hill, and it's about 28 to 25 feet off the ground. It's the lowest point, but it is kind of at an angle. I wouldn't say 45, but pretty close to that. And it seems to work on pretty near any band I put it on using the Heathkit tuner. I had an MSJ one. I couldn't load it on anything hardly. So I'm very happy with the Heathkit, and it's doing a job. And I was on 10 meters today with it, and I was on 15 meters with it on the wire. I didn't work any other band, but I did get on 20 meters also, and that was all with the wire. Worked very well for me. I'm very happy with it. Took somebody a little bit of time to convince me to do it and use it, but thank you, George. But I do now. Very well, working very well. With that, let's turn it over to High Desert. NY6L, November 6th, Whiskey Hotel Kilo.
Okay, so very good. Thank you very much. NY6L, stay here in Hesperia. Well, let's see here. Currently, right now, I am on a
two-band HF dipole, top dipole that's intermittent. I've got a W2AU balun up there that's, well, it gets moody at times, especially when the wind moves things around. And I get a good match, and then I get a 5-to-1 match, and I need to change that out. So I bought one of Bob's off-center fed dipole antennas that I desperately want to put up. So covers 80 through 6 meters. And as far as room, I got 2 acres here, so I'd like to also put up an off-center fed 160-meter dipole antenna also, because I would love to try out 160 meters. But yeah, I would say the off-center fed that has been proven by Bob and AK6R seems to perform very, very well. And I got one here on me, but I have to need help to put it up. So there you go. So in the future, maybe something really big. Who knows? Might cover 2 acres here. So for right now, and as far as other antenna for 10 meters, recently I put up a big monster 10-meter ground plane antenna called a penetrator by High Gain. And with my dipoles, that's kind of measly on 10 meters with an antenna tuner, I get 5 S units more with that 5H wave 10-meter ground plane antenna. And it works South Pacific and works the East Coast no problem, especially the FM repeaters with 100 watts. So anyway, over there to Frank, K6FEW, NY6LJ here in his area. And by the way, running the Atlas 215 X barefoot.
Thanks, Jay. K6FEW here. Let's see. Antennas. The one that I had about 6 or 7 years ago that worked great was just a plain center-fed dipole with a bunch of ladder line. And I got it, it was 80-meter half wave. And I even got it down on 160 meters pretty well. But that all came down a few years ago, and now I'm using I got back on the air, and I'm using end-fed zip. And the thing that's been amazing about that is I was astounded at how sensitive it was to the counterpoise. You can move the thing just a few feet, or make it like 3 feet longer or 3 feet shorter. It made a tremendous difference in the SWR. So I've been playing around with that, trying to improve it, but it's all a work in process. As the CE10A, I hope it's not, I apologize, Dennis. I saw on my Spectrum too that it's a little wide, but it didn't look like I was stepping on anybody's toes around us, so I thought maybe I'd give it a try. Anyway, it's a work in process. These all analog, balanced modulator diode bridge rigs are just phasing rigs are just I have an infinite number of adjustments, and I tweaked some of the coupling between some of the coils last few weeks ago. It took me 2 weeks to get that corrected. But anyway, it's a work in process, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So, Bob, thanks for taking the net tonight. Hope everybody can copy okay. So over to you, AK6R, K6FEW. Go ahead.
Yeah, K6FEW in the group, AK6R. Well, very good. Well, signal report-wise, everybody was at least 20 over, so signals are standing in there and sounding good for everybody. And thanks for the reports on the antennas. And boy, having a 285-foot long antenna, Phil, that's pretty cool. I wonder how big the counterpoise is on that, or if you're using one at all. But certainly you're going to get some gain on the high bands, that's for sure. And you do with any antenna that's over a quarter wavelength anyway. You do get some fairly good gain on those things. And Jay, thanks for the plug, although I don't need it. But I'm a fan of off-center feds. But in a second, I'll talk about a little bit different type of off-center fed that may be of interest just from a theoretical standpoint to everybody. And Frank, the 135 center fed with the ladder line, you know, I tried that for a long time. In fact, I use a ZS6 BKW, which is a fancy G5 RV here. But every time it rains, the darn thing won't work at all. So it's either my connections or it's just the water between the ladder line there that's causing that issue. But I've made over 50,000 contacts with that antenna all over the world. It's got great radiation and in all different corners of the world, and also pretty good gain. So that's an antenna to try out. But you just have to use an antenna tuner all the time. And I frankly would like to have an antenna that I don't have to use antenna tuners all the time. And it makes it a lot easier to switch bands. But your end-fed ZEP, yes, they are very sensitive, particularly if they're on a half wavelength long. But I'll give you another idea here. Jay talked a little bit about an off-center fed, and so did somebody else, and Glenn, I guess it was. And one of the aspects of an off-center fed antenna is there's a long side and there's a short side. And a lot of people don't have 135 feet to put up an antenna. They may have 100 feet or a little bit less than 100, certainly less than 135. And by the way, you can take an antenna and you can bend the antenna 90 degrees horizontal. For example, going from one tree to another tree, and it still works pretty well, same as it does if it's a straight line shot. But if you think about it, there's a long side and there's a short side of an antenna on an off-center fed. The OCFs are very useful because they work multiple bands, and that's primarily what you can do with one piece of wire. And if you have a really good hybrid balun, which is a 4-to-1 and a 1-to-1 in the same box, and it's a flat balun, it'll work all the way up to 6 meters and down to 160 if the length of the wire is correct. But here's a new concept that was introduced a couple years ago. There was an article in QST magazine, and it's called an end-fed off-center fed. And it's simply this. You take, for example, I'll give you some dimensions. On an 80-meter one, the ones that we use here, they're 95 feet on one side and 40 feet on the other side. And they'll work all bands from 80 through 6 meters. But now if you think about it, that 40-foot side, if we can use the coax, the outside braid of the coax, as that 40-foot side, then the antenna, the real wire side, is only 95 feet long. And so here's what we do. We chop off that 40 feet. And what we do is we put a choke on the coax 40 feet down from the feed point. So electrically, it sees almost exactly the same thing as it would with an off-center fed with two physical pieces of wire. And in fact, that's what I'm using tonight. I'm using an end-fed, off-center fed, 95 feet of wire, and there's a 90 degree, if I can say it, bend in the wire about halfway through the wire. And there's a choke at the 40-foot mark on the coax. And that works on all bands, 80 through 6 meters, almost identical to the off-center fed, but in a lot less space. And so if you're working 40 meters and you have an equivalent, you can do it in 55 feet or 20 through 6 meters in 25 feet. So lots of different options, but it allows you to work all the bands in a much less space. And we've been playing with those for about a year now, and then they're starting to work out really well for us. So just another idea, and they're easy to make yourself, by the way. So think about that if you are limited on space and you have a small lot. Okay, let's take, there's 10 people left, so I'm going to take them in two groups of 5. And we're going to start off with KF6 QNG, Lisa. And Lisa, turn it over to your other half. And Dennis, thanks for taking the earlies today. You did a great job. W6DQ. And then turn it over to N4DLA, Matthew. And then over to Bob, WA9JIB. I got it right this time, Bob. And then over to Skip, K6LGL, and then Skip back to me. So over to you, Lisa, KF6QNG. I hope you're staying warm out there. This is AK6R.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Oh, yeah, it's usually a lot warmer here than it is in the main house, so. Well, yeah, you tell yourself that, that's fine. Anyway, thanks for hosting the roundtable this evening. Been listening to the answers and some interesting stuff, and everyone seems to have a good time with it, so that's what it's all about, enjoying life and getting to know people on the air here. So, good. I'm going to go ahead and give it to Dennis. So, W6DQ from KF6QNG.
Alrighty, thank you, Lisa. KF6QNG and the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable W6DQ, Dennis and Inyokern, where it was, I didn't check the temperature recently. It was recently 33. It's getting colder. Let's see, yep, it's down to 32 now. It's cold here. At least it is decent here in the ham shack, thankfully. I'm thankful for that because it is cold outside. So, Bob, interesting question, and thanks for hosting this evening. Brace yourself for this one. I was thinking about this a bit, and the one be-all, end-all antenna that I can think of that I would love to have if I had unlimited resources was originally made by Collins Radio, and then they sold it to, I can't think of the company they sold. I guess they sold it to High Gain, and then High Gain sold it off to a company called U.S. Antenna, United States Antenna Products Incorporated, who you've probably heard of. They make a log periodic. It's an LP1005. It covers 3 to 30 megahertz. 3 to 30 megahertz. So one antenna. Wouldn't be able to do 160, but I could live with that. 3 to 30 megahertz on one rotating antenna. You have to include with that their tower that goes with it. It's an 80-foot freestanding tower. That's the T3002-3002FS, freestanding 80-foot tower. And then include the 100-foot rotating mast to hold the antenna, and then the R3503 rotator. There's your antenna system, and I think, one of those, I could be happy with that. Although I like being able to have multiple things going at one time, but man, being able to switch bands instantly and not worry about anything, that would be the way to go. So let me describe, that's my antenna choice. What we're running tonight, got the S-line back, one of the S-lines back on the air. I've been using this in the past, but it's been giving me some problems. So I completely went through the 32S3A and the 75S3C. They went through them top to bottom. They've been completely cleaned and realigned. All the tubes have been tested, some of them replaced, and in fact, the replacements in the receiver is performing incredibly well tonight. I was having some problems with it the last time I was using it, so it's behaving the way it should as a new radio. All calibrated, S meters calibrated, the PTOs are both calibrated, and it's just really cranking. So we're running that, the 32S3A, the 75S3C, and the 30S1, and that's going out to the horizontal loop. It's one wavelength at 160 meters, about 50 feet in the air. So that's what we're using. And of course, that's got an auto tuner on it because it's remote, and the tuner is remote. So that's it from here. Thanks again, and everybody's sounding great tonight. If Max was in there, I could not hear him, unfortunately. Mike mentioned that he might have been calling me, but everybody else is just coming in here great, so it's really good to hear everybody. So without further ado, over to Matthew, N4DLA, and the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable, W6DQ.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. W6DQ and the Vintage Sideband Roundtable. From N4DLA, Matthew in Orinda, California, about 15 miles east of San Francisco. Running a Atlas 210X, about 100 watts out with a Shure 444 microphone, straight feeding a 75-meter dipole, sloping down from 60 feet. Great signals from everybody tonight, and a lot of great answers to the questions. And Dennis, you mentioned the LPDA. when I was young and lived in the Washington, D.C. area, Embassy Row on Massachusetts Avenue, all the embassies had the big LCDAs on the roof for the diplomatic interest communications. You too. Have you turned it to JIB?
Yeah, Bob, go ahead and take it.
Yeah, nobody wants to listen to me.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Matthew. You were doing a fine there for a while, and then,
yeah, I know. I put up a big antenna, I got 100 watts, and I just get jammed. That's, no point in coming up to JIB. I'm going to get jammed.
Out of California. And let's see, I'm running my house after station, right there with a NC50 mic, 10 watt HC32B, SX115. Yeah, I do go through an MS station.
Got better things to do than get jammed.
Dipole hanging off a 35-foot mast, inverted duty. Okay, everybody is coming in great. Ron, you were 40 over. Matthew was 20 over until let's see. The question, as I understand, is you only could have one antenna. So I'm going to add one that hasn't been mentioned yet because I use it, and that's a trap dipole. So when I got back started in ham radio, I was just looking for whatever I could throw out quickly and cheaply. And I was at a Scars meet in Burbank, and I found boxes of stuff, including this trap dipole. Barker and Williamson 370-13. So outside the trap is 40 meters, inside 20 meters. They say it works on 10 and 15. Yeah, it does. 15 needs a lot of help from the tuner. 10 is great. 20 is great. 40 a little help from the tuner. So I have this. I think I paid $25 for this box of stuff. I eventually tried a trap. One negative on this antenna is it only takes 500 watts of power. And so I was looking for a replacement trap, no luck. Finally, I just said, well, let me see if somebody's got the whole antenna. This guy in Arizona had one for $35, and 4 days later it arrived. That's what I use now. So I like trap dipoles. Not that I've compared them against a lot of other things. But you get this is 10, 50, 40, 20, 15, and 10. This is a commercial antenna, but there's a design for it. The ARRL antenna book. And there's also one that'll go up to 80 meters with an extra trap. And I suppose if you short the sides together and work it against counterplate, you can get it on 160. So there's another way to get everything from 3 to 30 megahertz. And proof's in the pudding. I worked a ton of DX with this thing. And so if I could only have one, I'd have essentially the antenna I got now, but with an extra set of traps and a little more length. I could get it up to 80 meters. And just to make up for loss of directivity, why not put it on a 100-foot tower or something like that? So that would be my ideal. I don't assert it's the best ever. It just works for me. So with that, over to A6LGL, WA9JIB.
Okay, thank you, Bob. WA9JIB. This is Sideband Long Table. And thank This is Skip in Santa Monica, K6 Little Green Light. Well, we're living in a city lot, and when we put up my antennas a generation or so ago, I put up one specifically for 75 meters, and that's a dipole because I was in the I use heavy duty the general antenna is a doublet, all-band doublet, consisting of heavy-duty, not open wire line, but actually ladder lines. And that seems to survive both the sea moisture and the usual rain and all that. There's slight changes in impedance anytime you're using other than coax. But it has performed quite well, including usable on 6 meters, but on 6 meters I prefer that to have something separate. My ideal antenna would be a separate antenna for every band that is optimized. You know, probably a double inverted drip on 160 would probably be good. And a couple combination on 40, about a 4-element Yagi on 40, approximately 7 or 8 elements on 20, similar on 10, on 15, and others. In other words, separate and like I used to run a 10 element on 6 meters, except I would go to white space up to my Yagi. But that would be an antenna farm, and it's just impossible a lot. But to those of you who have some acreage, hey, I agree with Dennis. Go for the big ones. Okay, back to you there, Bob. But you work on the, let's say, unbalanced antenna and film or a combination are very, very worthwhile. They're a very excellent gain there and good characteristics. Okay, 18-6R and the vivid sideband there. Thank you very much for an interesting net. K6 Little Green Light.
Yeah, K6 Little Green Light in the group. Thanks you very much, Skip. And nice signals. Let's see. Dennis, you were 30 to 40 over. And Lisa was the same, by the way. And I have one question for you in just a minute. And for DLA, you're about an S9 here from Orinda. I got married in Orinda once, and well, I like that city very much. And WA9JIB, you were plus 10, and as well as Skip plus 10. My question to you, Dennis, is that big antenna wife approved? Over.
I don't know. I think you'll have to ask her. What do you think?
Well,
what do you think, Lisa? Yeah, she says yes. There you go. There's your answer.
She doesn't have a problem with it. I take two. They're small. Thanks, Bob. Back to you. AK6RW6DQ.
W6DQ. I guess
the question is how do you choose a wife? You got the right one there, Dennis. Hi. Very good answer. Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. All right. Somebody made a comment early on about resonant versus non-resonant, and I just wanted to make one comment on that. A real popular antenna that we have is a 71-foot wire, and we put a choke at the 41-foot mark on the coax, and that antenna will work 80 through 6 meters also, but it's fed a little bit differently. It's fed with a 9-to-1 transformer rather than a 4-to-1 transformer, but certainly performs almost identical to the resonant antennas. We really haven't been able to measure any major resonance changes or field strength changes with those. So there's a lot of people that think you have to have a resonant antenna. It's not true. You can use non-resonant ones also. The non-resonant ones are 155 feet of wire and about 95 feet of coax choke at the coax, and that'll work 160 through 6 continuous with all bands, including 60 meters in there too. So it just depends upon how you want to configure it and how much space you have available and those types of things. All right, we got the last 5 here. Now we're going to turn it over to George and get an antenna report and a health report. I hope, George. You're sounding good tonight, W6YEC. Turn it over to WA6BIP Gary. I think it's WA6. Could be WA. I think it's WA7 actually. BIP Gary. Good to hear you again, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, I hope. And then turn it over to Ken, KW1NG, and then over to WA6LGR Bill, and then over to WA6JUS, and then back to me, and we'll tie the ribbons on it. So go ahead and take it away, George. W6YEC, AK6R.
Okay, thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. W6YEC running remote tonight. It's just too chilly out there to get on my scooter and go down to the radio room. So I decided to sit here and relax in my little study here in the house with the remote. And it was interesting. I won't give a report on everybody, but most of the signals are from 20 to 40 over. That's what I've been hearing all night, 20 to 40 over. Matthew was down. He usually is down a bit. But I thought, that is amazing. And it's one reason I like this antenna I'm using, which is a full-wave loop. 170 feet of wire, 40 feet in the air, and homemade feed line on the corner there, coming down the corner right to the ham shaft and going through the wall right to the tuner. It's really worked. I've had that antenna up now about 18 years, I think. And I've tried different combinations, but this is the one that works the best, the full-wave loop. And then I decided to go from my 160-meter vertical to this antenna. And what I did is I put a Frankenstein switch on the feed line, and I'm able to switch it where the line is shorted, going up to the corner of the antenna there, and run on a separate tuner. I have a coaxial switch, so switch between the two tuners. And the heat kit tuner I have is set on 160 meters. And you know, this antenna outperformed my vertical by 10 dBs. Using, the center feed line, or using the feed line as the radiator and the loop as a capacitor. I couldn't be any more pleased with an antenna than I am with this one. 8210 meters, no problem. And tunes all the different bands. I did have to get rid of my Johnson matchbox to be able to tune like 30 meters, that kind of thing. And the matchbox, of course, wasn't made to do that. And I've been using, when I got rid of it, a friend of mine had passed away, and I picked up his MFJ 962 tuner, and that's worked out beautiful after I fixed it. It's been just working out great. And anyway, I enjoy this antenna, but I also have a coaxial flat top cut for 75 meters, and Phil has one too. And you know what? They are just as good as this antenna. And they're quieter. And that flat top for Phil, it got rid of some of his solar noise. Anyway, I've always liked a coaxial antenna. With a transformer, you cut it with the coax and made it out of coax. It's just a great antenna. So I used to run one many years ago on 75 and 40 meters. That was my two antennas. They were up about 50 feet. Anyway, that's it, Bob, here. Health-wise, we're just continuing to press along. I went to the DMV this week with a note from my doctor, filled out the required forms from the state and given me permission to drive to get the suspension off my license. I thought I'd go in the DMV and I'd walk away with a driver's license. But no, DMV doesn't deal with it direct. I had to go down to some other place down in Mission Valley that is a safety side of DMV. I had to turn my paperwork in from the doctor. They said they'd get a hold of me in 2 months. In 8 weeks, they'd tell me what's next. So I'm kind of hanging here, not sure what they're going to require of me. If they just go ahead and remove the suspension, or if I'm going to have to go out and drive for them, or take a test, or what. So I've got 8 weeks to wait to find out what that's all about. anyway, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm so grateful for all the prayers and the good wishes and all of that and all the help I've gotten. And it is challenging for me because I've always been one to just go out and do it myself. So anyway, and Phil's picked me up and taken me to lunch with some of the guys on Saturday. So thank you, Phil. That's been wonderful. That's it, Bob. I won't say any more. Let me move it on to Gary there. Yeah, you're right. WA7BIP. Take it away, Gary. Let's see how you're doing in here tonight. I can't remember what you were when you checked in. W6YEC.
Okay, George. W6YEC, WA7BIP. Well, it's good to know the prayer works, so I'll keep doing it. And you sounded great, so QSL and all that. That's just really great. Well, we're running the Kenwood TS 830S, and it has problems. And I hope it's not growling. I had we'll keep watching what's happening here. And I think I'm not getting enough output out of it either. So it might be there might be some issues in the PA and maybe a little RF feedback or something. Or even my antenna may have gone south. Since we're talking about antennas tonight, maybe time for a new antenna. Well, anyway, the antenna we're using is a gas-tightened vertical antenna, which I threw on the house when we did the remodel, so I could get something up real quick without having to walk all over the roof and break tiles. So that's what's up there. So what I really like to put up is kind of what I had when I was early ham with a general license working the world. I had inverted L, and that antenna worked so good. It's 125 feet long. I think it was up about 40 feet. There's that magic 40 feet there, Bob. It was up, I think it went up 40 feet and then out another, whatever the length was to run to make it 125 feet on a couple of telephone poles that I managed to locate. And we had a system of raising and lowering those things that worked out really well, and my dad helped me work out. But that antenna, or else a 125-foot dipole balance, fed with ladder lines, so I need a tuner. And I'd like to go find or rebuild the balance tuner that I had. I mean, a truly balanced tuner. It's one that doesn't have the ballon out there at the end at the high impedance point, but more right at the transmitter where it's most efficient. Put it right there and then run. It takes more components. It takes a few variable inductors and you can get by with one variable capacitor to run a virtual ground to it. But that would be the next step antenna. And I guess I'll be talking to you, Bob, about chokes for antennas as well. I remodeled the kitchen, so I got to get the chokes for all the LG equipment we got, all the dimmers that are making noise. And I had to run around and shut everything off just to work the radio tonight. So, I need some help. And you're the guy. So, I guess it goes over to Ken. And let's see if I get your call right, Ken. If I didn't get it right, I'm sorry. I'm recovering from being ill for about a week, so I'm not eating it. I think it's 411 November Golf. This is WA7BIP. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, WA7 BIP, Gary, KW1NG, Ken and Alpine. We're about 30 miles east of San Diego, about 1,800 feet elevation, and we're running S-line tonight. The 75S3C, 32S3, the 30L1, putting out about 600 650 watts peak, something like that, into and a Shure 444 mic. But the antenna is interesting, Bob, because you described it. I have a 92-foot long wire. It's about 20-foot vertical and about 72 feet horizontal, approximately, and fed with your 9-to-1 bullet at the bottom of it, a couple of 15-foot and one 30-foot counterpoise, and the coax has a choke about 50 feet down the road from the antenna feed point. And you know what? I think this has been my favorite antenna to date. I've had a vertical 40-meter loop. I've had dipoles and so forth, all supported by that first 30-foot pole that I put up a long time ago. But I think this one works the best. I've gotten the best signal reports from it, and it just works everywhere. I do have a MFJ 998 auto tuner, and I just punch the button on it and tune everything up, and away it goes. But I checked it here without the tuner, and it's about 2.5 to 1 on this frequency. I haven't really looked at it elsewhere because the auto tuner is so easy to use. Don't always use the S line. I use the 7610 at times, and I have that wired up. So I just push the tuner button, puts out 10 watts, tunes the thing up, and away I go. And then with the S line, I just turn the mic gain down and turn it to the tune position and crank the mic gain up to about 10 watts and pop it tunes, and done, you know. So it works out really easy. What I'd like to try, I haven't, is a horizontal loop. And like George was talking about, a 80-meter horizontal loop, about 270 feet on the side, or total circumference. I have a place, I think I've scoped out that I can put one up as a triangle with the feed point apex against the house. And then there's a couple of trees out in the yard that I can hide some poles in and bring it up over that and get a 40-foot loop, get the loop up about 40 feet. I'd like to try that. I have a feeling it'll work out pretty well. I do have a fairly high noise level here, it seems. It seems to be running about S8 or so now, and I think the loop might help that a little bit. So anyway, I'd like to have both of those, and then I can, switch between the two and see which one works better for the particular thing that's going on. Anyway, let's see. That's about it for me. So, Bob, I think your non-resonant long wire, at least this 92-foot length with the 9-to-1 transformer, I think it works great. So I give that my favorite. Anyway, I'm passing it on. We're going to go to Phil, WA6LJR. This is KW1NG Alpine.
All right, this is WA6LJR located in Pismo Beach. We're running about 130-foot end-fed long wire up about, 20 feet. You guys are all doing good. Thank you very much. Trying to find a BRR communications receiver. So, WA6LJR.
It goes over to John, WA6JUS. Take it away, John.
Okay, thanks. WA6JUS here. I have an intermittent switch to the transmitter. I hope I get through this.
This is an MSED that was an inverted part of a loop, but now it's sort of an inverted V MSED. It's a temporary, it's worked done surprisingly well. I now have the MA40 base. The concrete is aged for more than a month, so I can put the telescope inspections there and crank it up if I wish, if I have help. And then I can dream about antennas. I have WS6VUF. He had a fancy beam. George Runyon would remember it. But there are options to get the pole up first, I suppose. So not knock on wood. Hope there's people around who can give me some help. Back to the AK6R, WA6TUS.
WA6TUS, thanks very much, John, and good signal tonight. You're about a +10. LJR, you're +20. KW1NG, nice signal, +20. And Gary, you're about an S9, 100% copy you, but just a little bit down in signal strength.
And George, you were +10, no problem at all. And thanks for the update on everything from everybody. And I'm surprised we only had one person using a loop. I love a loop antenna. And by the way, they are a little bit quieter. You can probably pick up 1 or 2 S units of background noise reduction because of the closed circuit. And I've run them both with a ladder line down to a 4-to-1 balun, and also with a 4-to-1 and a 1-to-1 hybrid balun at the feed point. In both triangle configurations and in loop 4-sided configurations. Don't seem to see too much difference in radiation patterns, but there is significant gain on the higher bands. On 10 meters, 15 meters, you're looking 3, 4, 5 dB in all directions, kind of like the spokes on a wheel, and very good antenna. So if you ever have a chance to try one, you can try an 80 through 6 meter one, a 40 through 6, or a 20 through 6. Pick your choice, and they all work just fine. Easy to make and easy to feed, and virtually no antenna tuner is necessary on most of the bands. So, well, good comments from everybody tonight. It's interesting to see what antennas are working for everybody, and it's a pretty wide configuration of end feds and ZEPs and off-center feds, loop antennas, and a whole variety of other trap dipoles. We had even Bob was interested in the trap dipoles. I haven't used too many traps. I always like to stretch the antenna out, even if I have to zigzag it and not use a trap. And I guess that's just my own personal opinion. But if you got to use it and you don't have the space, then at least you're on the air talking to your friends and having a good time. And that's really what the genesis of ham radio is, and why we do what we do too. We just want to let people work the bands and talk to friends and meet new people all at the same time. And if you have a good antenna, it always helps. Well, I'm going to award the Golden Cup tonight to the most ostentatious antenna we've heard, and that's the Dennis W6DQ and his LP 1005 and his XY or his YL who approves of it. That's got to be a first for the net for everything. So, Dennis, why don't you give us some comments on that and tell us when you're going to have the antenna raising party? Over.
And how much does it cost?
Yeah, if you have to ask the price, you can't afford it, like they say. Well, yeah, it is ostentatious, and the sad part is, I know somebody who's got one for sale, and he's tried to get me to take it, but I've resisted so far. Yeah, it's a massive undertaking to put up something like that. I do know of a couple of people that have them, that use them. It is a major piece of equipment. And yeah, you're right. I picked the right YL. I think maybe it's the other way around. She picked me, I think. I don't know what happened, but one of us picked the right one. But it's perfect. I couldn't ask for a better mate for the stuff that we like to do. So it's amazing. She's smiling. She's grinning ear to ear. I love it. Anyway, Bob, thanks so much. Appreciate that. And yeah, it's not your usual antenna party. You need some heavy-duty rigging to put that thing up. So yeah, I wouldn't invite over the gang from the round table to do that. They can come over and play with it when it's up, but putting it up takes some pretty serious rigging. Speaking of which, Lisa reminded me, I forgot to mention something earlier. I do have an announcement. I'll be putting something out on the email reflector, but we've got a couple of tentative dates for the barbecue this spring at the end of April. We're looking at the last 2 weekends in April to be able to do the barbecue, one of those 2 weekends. So I'll put out something on the email reflector. You guys can think about it and let me know what you think about the date. I'll post something in the next couple of days, and we've been talking it over, and that looks like the end of April is a good shot for us. So there you go, Bob. Thanks again, and back over to you, AK6R in the Vintage Sideband Roundtable, W6DQ, and thanks again.
Yeah, roger that, Dennis. That sounds good.
And maybe the next question is going to be how to pick a mate for ham radio. I know some people that have done it right, so that's cool. I'm glad it works out, and you guys are great for playing around here. Let's see. I had one more comment, Dennis. When is the DX convention? Is that the end of April?
Oh, sorry about that. I hit the wrong switch. I'm not sure of the date. We can look it up and see. There was some thought that there wouldn't be one this year, but I guess NorCal stepped up and sponsored it, so it's going to happen. But I'm not sure. Back over to you, W6DQ.
Yeah, roger. Yeah, I just wanted you to take that into consideration. The DX convention is...
I thought it was in April. I'm not sure. I know Yuma is not going to happen this year, but the DX convention, I think they are going to have it. So at least they asked me to be a speaker, so I think it's going to be on anyway. But anyway, just take that into consideration when you set the date. Other than that, I want to say 73s to everybody. Thanks for participating, and enjoy the antenna ideas that were presented tonight, because every type of antenna seems to work. It's just a matter of convenience and the space available, and the important part is that we're on the air talking to each other, having a good time. So 73s to all, and we'll catch you next week. And I promise I will not be taking the earlies, or I won't be running the round table. 3 weeks in a row is enough for me for a couple weeks. So see you everybody. Good night, and 73s.
Bob, I got the date.
Thanks, Bob. Break for Gary. Gary, are you still there, W6YEC?
What's the date?